Hello, and welcome back to another episode of NOS Live. This is our show hosted by Nerds on Site. I am your host for today, Will. I'm going to be bringing to you all the entertainment from my fantastic panel of guests we have right here. I just want to make a quick reminder to anyone in the audience that our show goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single Wednesday night. So if you guys have been here for the last couple of episodes, if you guys have had fun, if you guys want to see us again next week, make sure to remember that time. Mark it in your Google calendars. That's the only way to remember anything in this modern age. Now, I would also like to mention that this episode is in fact sponsored by DNS Thingy, which we'll be discussing a little later on in the show. And next, we've got a lot of new faces today, so I am going to waste no time in immediately getting to our introductions. So I would like to start off by introducing a new face to the show. Darius, say hello. Say a few words about yourself.
Hi there, I'm Darius from the Northern Empire. I do general IT hands-on stuff, and I enjoy project work, that kind of thing.
Very good, thank you. And next we have Simon, who's actually joining us from, if I believe I'm correct, somewhere sunny, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm no longer a nerd, I'm a Mexican. And I'd also like to point out that I'm not Arthur, and that I have the largest Brady Bunch head here.
Perfect, perfect. And next we have yet another new face. Diba, say hello to the audience.
Hi, I'm Diba, and I'm part of the Nerds on Site administration team, and I'm really glad to be here, especially with Simon.
There we go. Look at that. This is what I'm talking about. Every single week, this Nerds on Site is just one big family. And speaking of family, we have, I believe, a brother to someone who we just introduced a moment ago. You may recognize him from a couple of episodes ago. Troy, say hello.
Hey there, I'm Troy. I'm, if you don't remember, a client relations specialist, and I'm part of the Northern Empire as well.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us again, Troy. And last but certainly not least, you know him, you've seen him every single episode. David, say hello to the audience.
Hi, everybody. I am also not Arthur. I am also Mexican, but unlike Simon, I am a nerd. Still, after 22 years.
You mean you could do two things at once? That's incredible.
Can you believe that? I've learned to multitask.
What a world we live in. I love it. I love it. And without any further ado, now that I've introduced my fantastic panel of judges for today's show, we're going to discuss our probably audience favorite recurring show. It's called Are You Smarter Than a Nerd in 5th Grade? The premise of the show is simple. I'm going to read out a question to you, the audience, in just a minute or two. And if you know the answer to that question, I want you to type it in the chat as quick as you can. Now, bear in mind, you only get one guess. Maybe. We'll see. It depends on how good your guess is. But at any rate, if you are having some difficulties typing in the chat, make sure to sign into your YouTube account. If you do not have a YouTube account, it only takes 30 seconds. You can link it up with your Google account. It's great. It's easy. And then you can potentially win a very cool prize. So with that out of the way, let's get right to the question. So the skill testing question for today's show is the two I's, the lowercase letter I's, in the Wii, the Nintendo console, the Wii, are intended by Nintendo to represent what? Now, that is a very trickily worded question, so I'm just going to repeat that one more time for you in the audience. For the Nintendo console Wii, spelled W-I-I, what do the two I's represent? Based on, this is from Nintendo, the words of Nintendo. So if you know the answer to that question, make sure you type it in that chat there, and you could have a chance to win a fantastic prize that we will come back to a little bit later on. All right. And I see we've already got a couple of people in the chat, some recurring faces. Looking forward to seeing some answers from you guys. So think long and hard about that question before you answer it, because once again, it really is just a brilliant, brilliant prize.
Long and hard, but fast.
Exactly.
Someone might beat you to it.
That's true. Don't think too slowly. Otherwise, you might get stolen out from under you. So with that being said, one of the huge core tenets of Nerds on Site is the idea of going into business for yourself, but not by yourself. And what that means is really having the autonomy to work and to be able to create the business for yourself and make it what you want to be, but not being alone, being able to work with friends, colleagues, people who share the same passion that you do for helping people, for solving their technological problems. And I'd actually like to get Darius to take a few minutes to tell us a little bit about his process in becoming a nerd and tell us a little bit about what that sort of journey was like.
So it was pretty straightforward, I guess. I mean, I'm Simon's son, of course. So, I mean, I've kind of been introduced to it over time as he worked. Obviously, I had an idea of what everything was. But getting into it, I mean, I got into it right as I graduated school. So it was a bit of a shift from school, obviously. But it's been a slow by choice, I guess, growth process. And but I've enjoyed it every step of the way. It's exactly what I want when I want it to be, since I'm able to pick exactly what I'm doing. And I've had a chance to interact with some really, really awesome businesses and people, and really, I guess, push the boundaries of what I think is possible, and complete some pretty awesome projects. And I'm thrilled to do it every day. I'm happy to get up and head out to those jobs and get it stuff done. You know,
that's amazing, and that's exactly what you know. I know some people here in the audience. Maybe you're still in school. Maybe you're wrapping up school. You don't know exactly what to do. You know you like technology. You know you like helping people. And if that's the case, I want you to go to www.iwanttobeanerd.com. That is the place to go if you are looking to join the team, to join this community, really, of people who use technology to make other people's lives better, to make other businesses run more efficiently, to just generally solve problems in people's lives. Once again, www.iwanttobeanerd.com. And now, without any further ado, the best part of the show, the open floor discussion. Now, I know this is my personal favorite part of the show, just because I love getting to hear all the people's opinions. And today's subject matter is a little bit of a different one from our usual fare. We're going to be discussing gaming, and that's a huge overarching umbrella. And we're going to touch on a couple of different little facts here, there, everywhere, just about the different facets of gaming, the evolution of it, and just sort of our personal thoughts and experiences. So with that being said, I think I'm going to open up to the floor to begin the discussion. So who would like to start with either some anecdotes, some thoughts, some feelings, some experiences in the world of gaming?
I will. Okay, so the very first console, or oldest, I guess, console that I ever played on was the original Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. And you know what? I thought it was fantastic back then. I still think it's fantastic. And I feel like as I'm thinking about this, and I thought about this for the past couple of minutes here, if you're playing along and you're going along, as they come out, you don't notice necessarily how terrible the graphics are when you, or to the degree you do when you go back and you try and play your old NES on your 84-inch, Super HD TV. So I have to say, like, there is a pleasure that will never be known by, someone who is, played on a PlayStation 4 compared to playing on the original NES or the Sega Genesis or, anything of that sort. And I feel like, honestly, those games, they still captured you the same amount as today's games. I remember playing a Hercules game, Disney Hercules, when I was a kid on the original PlayStation for hours. And it was still just as fun as me playing Skyrim for, a month today. It was incredible.
That's amazing. And so you feel like the sort of the evolution of graphics and of games hasn't really necessarily diminished your appreciation of the older ones?
Exactly. Yeah. I actually, about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, I went and I collected not all of the families, but some of the families, different, the Super Nintendo and the Xbox One, or, like Xbox original, like that kind of stuff. And like played through the Donkey Kong Country games, which was awesome. That was a blast, and like playing that with someone else is just incredible. Like you actually can play multiplayer on the same console, unlike nowadays, like in a lot of games. So that's also definitely a huge benefit.
Though one thing I'd like to point out is I think those that really like retro consoles, the SNES, have held up a lot better than like first generation, like original Xbox 3D games are the worst.
Yeah.
Like there's one game I'm remembering in particular, which was incredible because I played with Troy and it was Brute Force.
I was going to say Brute Force.
But trying to play that now, it is just a smudge. I can't even play it anymore. And it hasn't gotten worse. It's just first generation 3D was terrible. There was no contrast at all.
Are you saying you have an Xbox that functions?
Yes.
An original Xbox?
Your Xbox still works.
It's loud, but it does work.
With the Atari console, like way back when, and I mean Pong, 2D graphics. That was, for us back then, it was fascinating to even play on something like that, and then to graduate into things like Nintendo and then Xbox. I mean, when I first got my first Xbox, it was like, oh my God. And then you got Kinect and you're like, you're the avatar in the game. So, that progression was totally incredible.
And now, do you still feel the same way that Troy does about it, where you can go back and play these things that you loved as a child and that you loved when you were younger and just say, wow, this is still so much fun?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're bringing out Super Mario and Mario. I mean, that's, I played those games way back then.
I'm going to tell you, the Intellivision has lost a lot of its luster. Something like Pitfall or Grand Prix on the Intellivision, it's really painful. I've tried.
The Xbox original re-release of the Intellivision games is still terrible.
They didn't capture the essence of it.
Yeah, it's still bad.
But we loved it nonetheless.
We did.
I feel like
we grew up with it, and that's how we progressed.
It's true.
I feel like I missed an entire generation of fun. This is no fair, as my kids would say, because I never knew what a computer was or what a screen was until I was almost 16 years old, and that was when we came to Canada. And a friend of mine had a Commodore 64, and he introduced me to Olympics. Right, you load this thing from a floppy drive. I still remember load $8,1 or something to that effect. Oh my goodness, it was unbelievable. Yeah, but the experience, that was my baptism by fire, as it were, and it was just definitely world changing. I can just imagine how my life would have been different if I had found out about gaming at the age that Darius did, or you did, Diba. That's amazing.
See, all I wanted was an Apple II. I just kept asking my parents, Mom, Dad, I want an Apple II. And they would say, okay. And then they buy an Atari. No, Mom, Dad, I want an Apple II. They go buy an Intellivision. No, just there's an Apple II Plus now. I want an Apple II Plus. And so we got a ColecoVision. And it's just like this cruel joke. We could not buy it. And so finally they're like, okay, we'll buy you a computer. We're going to buy an Atari 400. And of course, we all remember the Atari 400 because that was an amazing computer with a tape drive. And then there was, no, Mom, Dad, really, I just want an Apple II. But now I want an Apple IIc. It's portable. And so they bought a Mac, which was exactly not what I wanted because there was no games on a Mac. You couldn't play Karateka on a Mac. You couldn't play Dig Dug. Very disappointing.
It reminds me a lot of when I was younger. One of my very, very first jobs is I worked for a Zellers, which was a Canadian chain of department stores for those of you, or for those in the audience who aren't familiar with it. And I worked in the electronics section. And I remember that was around the time when anytime a mother who maybe doesn't know very much about gaming would come in, she would say, "Hi, I want to buy the Nintendo for my son." Which Nintendo? Oh, the one with the big green X on it, the Nintendo, right? And it was like, here's what you want. Here's a game for it. It's called an Xbox, but don't worry about it. You won't remember it. And then just sent them on their way. It's one of those things where it all sort of bleeds together for those who aren't familiar with it, I think.
I have to agree. I used to be going from console. I used to be a PC gamer until my PC crapped out, and I never actually bothered going and getting a new one. But I was very familiar with exactly what was the best model video card and this and blah 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 blah. And then I stopped for maybe a year and a half, and then I went back and I went, everything has changed. I was like, I guess I'll stick with my PlayStation then, because I was just like, it was incredible how quickly everything changed in that world, and I felt like that mother almost. It was impressive.
Oh, Diba, you know what I'm just realizing right now? You know how years ago when John and I started doing the nerd recruitment filter, and one of the questions was, how involved are you with computer games? And the more a potential nerd was involved in computer games, the more disqualified he or she became. I just realized that we've been gamed. All these guys here that are gamers, and we had no idea they ranked this high. They snuck through. They gamed us.
I've been gaming since I was like, what, 5? I mean, yeah, you guys got tricked.
Yeah, very long time.
Something like that too. Here.
Darius learned to read so he could play games.
Oh, that was his motivation.
Yep.
I was trying to play Dark Ages of Camelot, which was an old MMO.
That was a brilliant game, though.
And no one would read for me. They wouldn't read the chat for me or anything, so I had to learn.
So maybe my eyes are being opened a little bit here about gaming and gamification, because in fact that's how our kids are learning other languages, is through Duolingo, which is gamifying this whole notion of learning while you have fun, earning rewards, right?
Exactly. Yeah, setting
apps have really opened up a big world for gamers.
Mm-hmm.
To download from the App Store and play. I mean, I play a game that's similar to Clash of Clans, and I mean, majority of people know what Clash of Clans is like. So that really opens up a huge window for a lot of people, and a lot of learning experiences with different apps like the Duolingo and other apps that sort of make teaching a game.
And really, I don't think we can discount at this point in time in 2018 the merits of learning through video games. I mean, one thing that is, it's, as you said, that's on every single console, on every single computer, on every single phone, is nearly ubiquitous now, is Minecraft. Minecraft, has become literally a phenomenon, just a global scale phenomenon. And for those of us who have children who maybe are playing on Minecraft and are sort of exploring this three-dimensional blocky world, what are some of the experiences you guys have with that?
Well, I would imagine everybody here who has kids or nieces or nephews has them involved in Minecraft in one way or another. I'm behind me is some of our kids' collection of Minecraft in the real world, right? So this is interesting how the virtual world has transposed itself into the real world here, and even the learning. And at my office on the boardroom, our boys drawn Minecraft characters that are actually Lego Minecraft characters all over the whiteboards and stuff. It is a phenomenal experience, but I think like anything else, it can also become an addiction, right? So there's just a little bit of a warning sign. We've certainly had to put some brakes on, even on Minecraft.
Understandable, yeah.
The same idea of learning from Minecraft, I guess, and my own experience, since I was all of like 10, 11 when I started playing with like InfDev Minecraft, which was before Alpha, and watching the game evolve when they added Redstone, which is kind of wiring inside Minecraft. That was kind of not my first experience, but one of my early experiences where I really got into kind of basic logic learning use kind of thing. And then I was playing on PC, and so later on with modding, I also learned computer use with navigating folders and all that junk, because you just had to, because there was no easy way to do mods at the time. That was for a lot of games, but Minecraft especially. And then with mods also, you can get to the point where you have like computer craft, or was what it's called. So it adds computers to the game, and that actually runs on Lua. So you actually have to run programs and stuff. And that was a pretty easy introduction for me for Lua, because it's easy and you can see your changes and what happens immediately. It's just right there, right?
Yeah.
It gives you an easy playground.
That reminds me of of a TED Talk. Those of you who are inspired by TED Talks, if you just do a search for Minecraft, there's a fellow there who has changed the lives of thousands of kids, especially ones that suffer from autism. And some of these kids sounds very similar to what you were talking about, Darius, here a second ago, Simon. They learned, or very interested in learning, and started to learn to read so that they could play Minecraft. So, there is good stuff in this, that's for sure.
Definitely. And something we are needing to move on soon, but something that I think we have a very unique opportunity here that I really want to dive into a bit before we move on is we actually have two generations within the same family who play games, who are, gamers. We have fathers and sons here. So Troy, Darius, Simon, I'd love to sort of get your takes on sort of how you boys grew up with your dad and how gaming was maybe like integrated in some way, shape, or form to your lives as you grew up, and like some of your earliest memories, or Simon, some of the things maybe that you remember doing with your kids when they were young, things like that.
Well, I guess I'll go. So actually, gaming was a huge part of my childhood, and some of my favorite memories involve playing with these two people right here. Playing things like online MMOs with both of them, or playing as we got older, Diablo or anything like that. That was a fun time. Those were great games, and it was just like you get to learn to kind of cooperate with each other, and how different parts of the game mesh better. It was an incredible time, and I think that really helped strengthen the familial bond, actually.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, like, oh, what are you playing? Kind of watching, like, Simon tried the new MMO at the time or whatever, Oh, you can play until dinner or whatever, but you have to come, once you're done, you're never playing again. I remember that one. And I sat through dinner and played through the entirety of dinner and just didn't eat. I think it was Shadowbane or something. But, it was a lot of fun. And I don't know.
And you still turned out amazing.
Yeah, there's a certain castigation that goes with allowing your kids to game, but no, I think in our case it's worked well. Not that I intended to be defending my parenting on this show, but I think the results speak for themselves. So, but it's definitely been a factor in our lives, and if nothing else, it created a common enemy in my wife, who is really quite anti-gaming. But that's a different matter. But the thing is it developed a lot of things, right? Obviously, they're both interested in computers, but in very different ways. So it isn't that it causes people to turn out a certain way, or Darius and Troy would be clones, which is far from the case. They became involved in gaming for different reasons, and they game in different ways, and they have a completely different approaches to what they do and what they enjoy doing. One thing that hasn't been touched on, and you might find this strange talking to Troy right now, but at one point in Troy's life, he was really quite antisocial and did not interact well with other people, particularly kids his own age. And
wow, that's hard to imagine.
The outlets we hit upon was the fact that he could interact with people in a virtual environment, perfectly fine, even though he didn't want to socialize with children directly, and this was not something he wanted to be involved in. Like, he actively avoided it. So we actually eased a lot of our initial restrictions to allow Troy to have more social interaction with normal humans virtually, which it ended up in Troy is obviously quite gregarious and not an introvert. But the gaming world really just mirrors our own world. We can talk about gamification or whatever, but games just mirrored the real world. Now we're taking games out and trying to apply them against the real world, which ironically is where they're from. I mean, a lot of gamification looks very similar to military-based type things, but I think one of the key things is gamification shows this idea of alternate advancement in any sense. Right now, there's multiple goals and multiple paths for advancement and real measure of moving forward in things beyond gaming. And I think for me, gaming has always been one of the ability to advance in lots of different ways and with real feedback on your advancement, right? Like it's an outlet, whether it's creative or whatever. It's that satisfaction of being able to progress, even maybe in real life, if things are tied up and you can't. You're very frustrated because you can't move forward, but you can always turn to a virtual world, and we don't want to do this to the exclusion of reality, but there is that almost outlet of being able to progress and advance yourself and better yourself, even if it's in a virtual economy or a virtual, social environment. But I think that the real world has been very two-dimensional in terms of advancement, and the world of gamification and this whole idea of taking it outside of games, because games have gone further than that, right? Because when you only had a two-dimensional advancement tree, it just rewarded whoever optimized exactly the way that advancement tree worked. So the guys that played 24 hours a day and had no life outside of the game advanced while other guys didn't, right? So then in an attempt to make this more appealing to a broader audience, they've had to show different ways, create different ways of moving forward, of feeling that satisfaction and not being excluded by not committing your entire life to a game. And this, in the real world, is a powerful concept, right? Like the world doesn't have to be, you get a job, you become the supervisor, you become the manager, you become a branch supervisor, you become the general manager, you become the, blah, 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 blah. Because guess what? Not everyone gets to be the CEO of the company, right? So people are left being dissatisfied that they can't perform this one job. And people force themselves into jobs to feel that I've advanced, right? I'm going to be the manager, even if I have no management ability. And I am awesome at making the product. I'm now going to become a manager, stop making it, and I'm going to mess up because this is not what I'm good at. Whereas now there's more recognition of you could be something that isn't in a standard pass, a standard hierarchy. There's multiple chains to advancement and recognition for your achievements. And I think that's a really powerful concept that gaming has mirrored the real world, but brought it into life. And
so what you're saying is, if I continue to host this show, I get to be CEO of Nerds on Site? That's what I heard there, right?
Yeah. Charlie will tell you, you could be CEO too.
Perfect. Well, this
I think that's the beginning of Simon's TED Talk.
I think so. Yeah,
that's amazing.
This is sort of the tricky thing with a subject matter like this, where people have very strong, very heartfelt opinions, and I mean, the truth of it is, we could probably keep this discussion going for hours at a time and barely scratch the surface of what some of us have experienced. But the truth of it is, we got a show to run, and so I'm going to sort of nip that conversation in the bud. But if you in the audience, if you really like this discussion, if you want to hear more about this, let us know. Type in the comments. Tell us what you enjoyed. Tell us what you want to hear more of, because who knows what could lay down the road. So one thing I do need to touch on really quickly here is that so far, nobody in the chat has successfully answered our question of the day. So that means it's time for a repeat.
They don't know how to use Google.
Definite possibility.
What is wrong with you people?
Well, we'll put it out there one more time for them. It's possible that they came in a little bit late and they missed it on the first pass. So we'll read it out for them one more time. So the skill testing question today is, the Nintendo console Wii is spelled W-I-I. What are the two I's intended to represent? If you know the answer, type it in the chat. So please let us know what that answer might be. And now, going from here, we're actually going to dive into probably... I know I say the last segment was my favorite segment. I'll be honest, they're all my favorite segment. It's just a show full of good segments. So we're going to be discussing our tip of the week. And this is where one of our panel members brings to us a specific tip that is sort of, just highlights something that they've learned, they've picked up, they've experienced throughout their time being a nerd. And the tip this week is going to be provided by Troy. So Troy, whenever you're ready, I'd like you to share your tip with the audience.
So I'm just going to share my screen here quickly. And I am all about playing games that have rounds. Right now, I play Overwatch a lot. So you generally have about 15 seconds between rounds to do whatever you're going to do. So if you're like me, I have to quickly respond to like little texts. And it's nice little things like being able to realize if you are running iPhone, any of the newer ones have the haptic touch, you can just do a light touch on the number sign there, and drag to whatever you are looking for here, and then you're right back into it again. So again, shutter at, wow, this is quite the little thing here. Shutter at how
you are ad-libbing.
you're right, and how many hours it took. And so again, I'm going to press the little 1, 2, 3 button at the bottom, just light touch it, and then I'm going to go exclamation mark, and I'm right back into it. Otherwise, you have to go, it's awesome, and you press that button, and then you press that, and then you press back out of it again. That's a pain. So yeah, just a quick little thing to save, those seconds so that you can get those texts in during your between round time. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Sort of a time management skill at the end of the day.
Exactly.
That's
Very
what we like
cool,
to
Troy.
see.
That's the
Fantastic.
second iOS trick you've shown me that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Indeed. I know it's hard to follow that first one. That one was mind blowing, but I hope I was.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, it's very, very good. Very, very good indeed. So we actually got the answer to our question. It seems as though someone either maybe did a little bit of Googling in the interim, or is just maybe just it all made sense. Everything came together on the second reading of the question. So the answer to the question, once again, I'll read it out here, is the Nintendo Wii is spelled W-I-I. What do the two I's mean to represent? And the answer is two people playing side by side, or the abstract concepts of together, or we. And so congratulations to Lucas Atem in the chat. We will be contacting you a little later on to discuss your prize. And
Congratulations, Lucas. Woohoo!
very well done. Very, very, very well done indeed. And actually, you know what? We'll take this moment, in fact, to discuss the prize, because it's about that time in the show. We're going to discuss our sponsor for the show, which is DNS Thingy, and David's going to talk to us a little bit about that.
Hey, absolutely. We started this project some years ago because we felt that there was no perfect solution to offer an internet filtering solution at the router level that was A, affordable, B, customizable, and C, user-friendly. And so that's where DNS Thingy came about. And we now have firmware that's available for a range of ASUS routers, along with Linux and pfSense as well. And so what I wanted to just share with everybody is that one of these is going to be given away to Lucas, so congratulations. And we're going to get the address and information from you and send you one of these. Congrats.
Very well done, Lucas. Indeed. All right. Now, as I said earlier during our discussion panel, the truth of it is this subject matter, and really any subject matter, we could talk forever. But unfortunately, our time is up. So I just want to say a couple of closing words very quickly. Once again, if you enjoyed the show, if you're having fun, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to come back next week and every single Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is the place. This is the location, youtube.com/nerdsonsite. Come, hang out, spend some time with us. You could win a prize. You could learn a lot. You could even potentially join the family. So once again, youtube.com/nerdsonsite, Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And from myself, Troy, Darius, Simon, Diba, and David, we're saying good night, and thank you so much for watching.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.